A convicted child predator that a judge once called the monster parents fear the most has now been cleared for release under California's elderly parole program. He's 64 years old. His horrific crimes include 16 counts of kidnapping and child molestation. He was sentenced to 3 straight terms of 25 years to life, plus 20 years on top of that. The state's Corrections and Rehab Bureau detailing the process of his parole approval, telling Fox News Digital that on January 12, 2026, Governor Gavin Newsom referred the case back to the Board of Parole Hearings for further review, meaning he didn't agree with this conclusion. Now, at that then February board meeting, the panel reaffirmed the decision, recommending that this monster receive parole. The local county sheriff is slamming that decision here on Fox. Watch.
This man's a monster. He should not be allowed out, bottom line. Why is this parole board that's unelected, that doesn't report to anybody, making these decisions? And then also, how many more folks like Mr. Funston have been released already? We have no idea.
Now, it's important to note that the governor cannot overturn there in that state parole board hearings conclusion when it's a non-homicide case. And that is why the governor cannot at this point overturn those parole board hearings rulings. And one of the victims spoke out on the Ingram angle last night.
I have trouble conceiving, I'm going to say. I would love to have a child, you know, and this is what this man had took from me. And, you know, I feel like personally that's very hurtful. I have trauma. I don't trust anybody. I was told that he fantasizes still about, you know, children and stuff. Like, why would you let this man out if this is what this man is saying? You know, when he gets out, how do you not know if he will continue?
Governor Newsom is, as I mentioned, opposing the parole ruling and told Fox this. He said the Board of Parole Hearings is an independent agency and made this decision. The governor asked for BPH to review, and the governor does not agree with the outcome. David, I come to you first on this. There's a couple of options here. Now, if he's sort of labeled a sexually violent predator, that would mean that he could be civilly committed to a hospital instead of out in the community. And there are currently, there's people vying for legislation to be passed that would close that loophole that enables sexually violent predators, or ones even whether they have that title, to be included in this legislation. The elderly parole, that is people who've been in jail for 20 years or longer and are over the age of 50. But it just smacks the conscience that somehow this and those loopholes exist, because those were humans at the parole board hearing that said, oh, he's rehabilitated, even though he continues to maintain he is an attraction to people under the age of 7. That's children. He is a monster.
It's not a direct correlation, but it's important why we want the right people on school boards. You want the right people on parole boards. You want qualified individuals. I would take a very hard look at this parole board. By the way, I don't excuse Gavin Newsom for this reason. You're the governor. You have actually an international platform. If you object to something, you can raise the level of that objection while you do not have the ability as governor to overturn it. And if he was really that interested, he should have raised that. Sheriff Cooper's absolutely right in assessing what this man is. And your point about the law, this is the problem with broad, sweeping laws that's often passed by, frankly, unqualified or uncaring politicians. We saw the same in North Carolina under Governor Roy Cooper, releasing criminals, over 3,500 criminals out on the streets. They have these broad applications, and they don't narrow in on the really dangerous. Recidivism rates for someone like that, when you look at the Bureau of Statistics or FBI's recidivism rates, are high. This guy is a danger to the community. They have got to find a way. Look, this is a case of watch, follow, don't ignore his rights. We don't do that under the Constitution. Find a way to put this guy back in jail. He should
have been chemically castrated or physically castrated long ago. Look, Harris, this case reminds me of, and I know you remember this horrific case, in the Mary Vincent case that hideously is called the Larry Singleton case. He was the predator who hacked off her arms while he was sodomizing her by the side of the road in the middle of the night in California. And what happened? California's judge's hands were tied, so he got out on parole a couple years later. And what happened? The communities rose up. They said, not in my town. And whenever the sheriff would release him at different hotel parking lots, there would be people protesting there saying, not here, not here. This is a monster. But what happened? They let him out anyway. They put him in Florida. And then what happened? He murdered a mother of 3. And only then was he, thanks to Florida, actually put on death row and unfortunately just died of cancer before it. I bring this up to say that the hands-tied argument is so patently false, and now I am fearful and yet sure at the same time that there will be additional victims from this monster that could have been preventable.
Yes to all of that. First of all, this man, and you mentioned elderly parole, he's 64 years old. Who doesn't think he's going to not keep going after children that he has raped in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, left them on a roadside after he got done with them? I mean, who thinks that behavior is going to stop at 64? Nobody. Nobody who can breathe. So, yeah, okay, if you want to talk about putting him away wherever you're going to put him, but Gavin Newsom getting involved here, this is a slippery slope politically. Because if you don't care enough to fight till the end, don't get in the fight. We know you like the spotlight. Can you do it when the lights are out and people are really hurting and maybe you don't get much credit and go do the right thing and stick in it, even if you don't get elected president? Can you stay in it until the right thing is done? This deserves that. It does not deserve another mouthpiece out there saying that he can, oh, let me have them take another peek. No, he could create that bully pulpit right now with those parents, and he could lead the charge on this. He could actually be president of that cause for those little ones against this monster.
A perfect segue for you, Kaylee, because Gavin Newsom in the Polly Klaas abduction and murder case, for example, lifted the moratorium on the death penalty without speaking to her parents and victims' families, even though he said publicly he did. And it was a similarity in this situation in that horrific monster kept a photo of Polly Klaas in his cell, and he told the dad that in public. These monsters are yet somehow able to thrive more than veterans and everyone else on the street that Gavin Newsom likes to ignore.
Yeah, and I love that you bring up these stories because accountability is so important. And years later, that's what these victims deserve. You know, Gavin Newsom, the thing I would say, just from a purely political perspective, it's a pretty popular thing to say, let's not let pedophiles out of jail. So why not make this your cause? Your party is perceived as soft on crime for a reason. You just gave a bunch of stories of what has happened in blue states. Be the person who's hard on the pedophiles, hard on crime. I appreciate the statement saying you disagree with it, but to your point,
who doesn't disagree with
your
it?
bully
That's like saying
use your
I'm not
bully
a fraud.
pulpit to do that. But secondly, I would say this: a 4-year-old who was a victim of this monster said he shouldn't be breathing the same air that we're breathing. He is a monster. A 4-year-old was taken by this man. The DA who prosecuted him, to one of the options you said earlier, said if he's being let out, he needs to be civilly committed. She cited the legislation. She said it's called the Sexually Violent Predator Law here in California, where we can do this. Do that in the very least. Gavin Newsom, be the first person to advocate for him to be civilly committed.
Maybe he got it from his dad, Kaylee, who called when these 3 hideous monsters kidnapped a school bus full of children in Chowchilla. He called that a, quote, harmless prank and gave them parole, too.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why Gavin Newsom won't do the right thing here. It's because he's the reason this parole decision was possible in the first place. It was Gavin Newsom who signed into law in 2021 the revision for the elderly parole hearings that decreased the age from 60 to 50 and the amount of time served from 25 years to 20 years. Gavin Newsom is the reason this man is being let out. And this is, in fact, a pattern. He also signed into law Bill SB 145, which removed the automatic lifetime registration for sex offenders who were convicted of committing certain sexual crimes with minors as long as there was a 10-year age gap. This is who Gavin Newsom is, and more importantly, this is who the Democrats are. Why aren't more California Democrats speaking out about this? There is, in fact, a law sitting in the state legislature right now to revise this elderly parole board, where it would require sex offenders and people with violent sexual histories, they would not be allowed into these decisions. And yet it has been sitting there floundering, and not a single California Democrat will say, you know what, let's get this passed. Let's get it signed into law. Why is that?
You know, you started with it was at 60. It shouldn't be anything. Who thinks that you can, like, turn this person's life around? Now, they can do it. They can work with Jesus and get it done. They can do it with their own relationship in prison. That's why you see so many people trying to rehabilitate themselves in that way. But there is something deep inside them that makes them rape a 4-year-old. You're not going to turn that around because they hit 60 or 70. Not until they're in the ground.
And that's why they should be
Government
excluded.
should protect the citizens,
Who are alive?
right, that are out there. That's one of government's jobs. State government, federal government.
I think that's the
Protect
number one job.
citizens.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, we will keep you posted, of course, on this horrific case. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.